go for the final time. We are free! Contact! A terrible crash!
We're in it.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here as we continue on our trend of debuting tracks here in Season 10, the final season of the NCRA Snickers Cup Series. We are here live at Manassas Speedway in Manassas, Virginia, as we're getting ready for a brand new racetrack for these drivers to test out only 2 weeks after we debuted at Louisiana and only 1 week after debuting at Madrid. These drivers are now back in the United States. They're getting ready to go racing for 30 laps here today, and this is going to be the final one of our stretch of debuting tracks. Next week, we're getting back on track with tracks that these drivers have been to before and are familiar with. This track is actually very similar to Chicagoland, actually. It's almost like a carbon copy of Chicagoland, so that should give these drivers a little bit more of an idea of what to expect for what kind of race we can expect to have here. And also, it's also going to give them a bit of a good thought of Chicagoland, because Chicagoland has been announced of one of the races that we're going to be having in the chase for the championship for. So the drivers that end up making this season's chase, this could be something where if they get a good run here, they'll be able to store that data, figure out what they had for a setup, and maybe apply that to when we get to Chicagoland Speedway. But we're getting ready here for race number 20. After this, only 6 more races, and then we put together our field for this season's chase for the championship. Pichu Lennon starts on the pole position, had a great run last week at Madrid, a solid top 10 run, trying to find another one here today as London has now worked himself up to 28th in the point stand. So he's now inside the top 30. He just needs a victory to be able to put himself in possible chase contention. Alongside of him, a guy who needs a miracle to get back in chase contention, and that would come really first with a victory. That's Sean Henley, former Snickers Cup Series champ. He is starting second in today's race. A number of the Tweenix drivers have had good luck this season. He's not been one of them. As Chris Dollerton will line up in the third position, he's actually had a pretty good streak of runs going lately. Chris Dollerton finds himself 32nd in points. This is a guy who was outside the top 35 in points for a good majority of the season. And alongside of him, our new points leader after last week, Jacob Lawler, will start on the outside of row number 2. Lawler comes into this race now as the new points leader, bypassing both Austin Mongold and Trent Dunham in the standings with a solid 8th place run last week. Now the guy who got the win last week, Dylan Young, starts on the inside line of row 3 in the 5th position. Dylan Young still needs a lot to go his way. That win moved him up 3 spots in the point standings, but he is, I think, 38th in points still. So he's got the win, but he's got to work his way now up into the top 30 in points. A second win would be ideal for that Blue Deuce team. We'll see what he'll be able to do as he's trying to make his first chase since, I think, season 6. It's been a long time since Dylan Young has been in the chase for the championship for the Snickers Cup. But without further ado, we're going to go down trackside. Now, I have not been getting very many sound bites of people giving the command to fire up engines. I've used up all the ones that I had so far at Coca-Cola, at Manassas, or make that at Louisiana, and at Madrid. And so therefore, we are going to be just showing you on the bottom of your screen who your Grand Marshal is. And whenever I get a sound clip of a person giving the command to fire the engines, then I'll put it in here. So I right now do not know who is the Grand Marshal, but without further ado, though, we're going to go down trackside and we're going to get those most famous words in motorsports here today at Manassas.
Cars and Squishy, Start your engines!
So the field rolls off. We'll show you your starting lineup for today's race here. I would say expect high speeds at this track and maybe some green flag runs because, you know, Chicagoland, Auto Club, those kind of tracks, even Kansas, they are tracks where drivers really, it seems to more come down to who's got the strongest car and sometimes pit strategy rather than relying on caution flags to bunch everybody up. So we'll see what's going to happen here in this race. The points coming into this race, well, they're pretty doggone close. Jacob Lawler is the points leader over Austin Mongold. Mongold's only 1 point back, so Lawler's got a task on his hands to try and keep the points lead. Trent Dunham, he's third in points. He is 13 points back. John Cittadino's now moved up to fourth in points, 27 out. Tim Walsh moves up to fifth. He is 27 points out as well. Joshua Collard still remains in the 6th position. He's been 6th in points for the last 3 weeks, has not gained, has not lost a spot in the standings in a while. Anthony McCrory dropped 3 spots after last week. He's 42 points back in 7th. Dougie Shears is 8th, 44 points out. Benjamin Miles moves back up into the top 10 to 9th. He's 57 points out and also 57 points out. A guy who's really been on a drop as of late, and that is Joshua Michaels. He's now down to 10th in the points only about 2 weeks after he was up 2nd in the point standings. But here we go, getting ready to go green. Pete Julun and Sean Henley get us underway. We're green flag racing here today at Manassas. And you look up here at the top 4 that started this race. Pete Julun, former Mobile Cup Series champion. Sean Henley, former Snickers Cup Series champion. Chris Dollerton, former champion of the Truck Series. And Jacob Lawler, former Snickers Cup Series champion. So we have 4 former champions from series here in the NNSCRA, starting in the first 2 rows as Chris Dollerton goes for the top position right off the bat. Tim Walsh looking to go for that spot as well. They'll come to the line. It'll be a battle between Dollerton and Walsh, and at the stripe, I believe it was Tim Walsh leading that by a splitter, and it was. The first lap of the day led by the Jack Daniels Toyota. Dylan Young right there. Dylan Young is a native of Chicago. Looking forward to Chicagoland, his home track. And like I said, this track is very similar to Chicagoland, so he really would love to win here. Trying to go back-to-back this season. The only driver that's gone back-to-back so far this season is Dylan Poteet, doing it at Auto Club and Las Vegas, 2.5 mile speedway tracks. Dylan Young won last week at the restrictor plate track of the grid. Would love to be able to win here at this 1.5 mile speedway as Charles Jackson now moves into 2nd. Lyndon Wright now moving up to 3rd place. Talked about Dylan Young. What about his teammate Levi McIntyre in the 99? Who ended up having a solid run of 4th last week and actually pushed his Young Motorsports teammate to the victory. Levi McIntyre really benefited from that as well. He's moved up 8 spots to 19th in the point standings. Former Daytona 500 winner and former chaser as well. We'll see what he can do here today, as I think he didn't qualify all that well. Walsh is leading, Lyndon Wright 2nd, Danny Wells in 3rd. Now where in the world did our points leader go? Where did Jacob Lawler fall to? He started on the outside row, and that's kind of cost him. He's now dropped back, battling Brandon Gonzalez, and at that time crossed the stripe in the 19th position. Austin Mongold, this is the first time that Austin Mongold has not had a really good qualifying run. Let's see where the 60's at. Oh wait, actually, he might have actually, oh no, I'm sorry. I thought I saw him. There he is. Currently battling, I think that's for 6th place with Stephen Pollard the 3rd as well. They're getting awfully racy back here. Joshua Collard in the middle of Ryan Acosta and DJ Curtis, Brandon Gonzalez. 3 wide, several rows deep, but this is a very wide racetrack and they're very wide turns. You can see right here, they're spread out heading into turn 1, which brings about for good green flag racing. Nice to see Zach Buchanan up there having a good run. Past 2 weeks that he's been running that Tag Heuer Chevrolet scheme, he has really not had any good luck. Right now drafting with buddy Stephen Pollard III in the 8th position, trying to bypass Trent Dunham. Trent Dunham, like I said, came into this race only 13 points back. Right now, he is running better than Austin Mongo and Jacob Lawler, who I just saw on the apron. Jacob Lawler now 42nd. As that car is up to speed. What happened to the 5? He's on the apron. It looks like he made a pit stop. Something went wrong on that Kellogg Chevrolet, and that is not good for Jacob. I don't think he was short pitting. Maybe he was. I don't know. Whatever the case, that's going to cost him. He's now, I believe, fallen off the lead lap. He has. He's a lap down. Not quite sure what to make of that as the battle's on for the lead. Jacob Lawler's teammate Kyle Matthews all over the back bumper of Tim Walsh. Now, Walsh has won already this season in Atlanta. A second win could maybe lock himself up a spot as Tim Walsh finds himself 5th in points. Kyle Matthews, however, who was the only one of the Hendrick Galley bunch to win last season, that came at Darlington. Well, 2 of his teammates have won this season already, and Lawler going to victory lane twice, and Cody Lamas going to victory lane at Kentucky. Kyle Matthews wants to find victory lane as well, and he moves to the top spot in the Pepsi Next Chevrolet, bypassing Tim Walsh. Brandon Gonzalez right there. Thought about maybe trying to take second away from Walsh, but Walsh closes the door, and now he's actually going to go right back with a crossover move in 3. Try and go for the lead himself. Let's see who's going to lead this lap. And again, Tim Walsh going to lead the lap. So that's the second time that Tim Walsh has been in a drag race to the line with somebody. He did it before with the pole sitter, who I just blanked out of who it was. Oh, Pichu London. And he ended up beating him out on the low side. So it looks like if it's going to come down to a last lap pass out of turn number 4, you're going to want to make room on the inside line. That appears to be where the run is coming out of the corner, which is actually quite odd. At most tracks like this, it's the outside line that gets that good momentum. You're able to get back to the throttle a lot sooner. But Tim Walsh has found some kind of a setup where he gets a nice run down the front straightaway and gets to the line before his opponent on the high side. Dougie Shears now looking to the inside line on Brandon Gonzalez. That's for the second position. Dougie Shears already a 2-time winner this season. A 3rd win wouldn't hurt him at all. That would pretty much all but lock himself up a spot in this season's chase. Danny Wells right behind him. Wells, a former winner at Darlington this season. He wants a 2nd win. As a matter of fact, Danny Wells last season was a 3-time winner, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe at least one of his victories, his 3rd win of that season, came at a track very similar to this. It was at a 1.5-mile racetrack, so I want to say Auto Club. Might be wrong. So Danny Wells knows how to get around these kind of tracks for sure. With James Silverfox as well. James Silverfox, he's been on a pretty good streak of good finishes lately. Silverfox has been moving himself up through the point stands. He was one of the drivers, much like Sean Henley, like Dylan Young, who'd been mired outside the top 35 for most of this season, and last week his good run at Madrid moved him up to 35th in the point standings. So he's been steadily working his way back up through the standings. There still is time for those guys that are mired down in points to be able to do something. But they got to do it more sooner than later. There's Bob Jones looking to the inside of him. That's for the 5th position as Danny Wells is going for the lead up ahead. And he'll probably get it with the advantage in turn 1. But Bob Jones had a great run last week at Madrid, had a runner-up finish to Dylan Young. So Bob Jones turning up the heat on his good runs right now. Jones comes into this race 27th in the point standings, about to lose a spot though right now to Benjamin Miles. As up in the front, there is your new leader. Danny Wells was able to get around Tim Walsh last lap. And now Lyndon Wright going to look for the 2nd position. Lyndon Wright ended up coming away with his best career finish a couple of weeks ago at Coca-Cola Speedway when he finished 2nd place. He's trying to go for the victory now. Lyndon 18th in the point standings coming into today's race. Guy back there that we didn't talk about qualified this race in, I believe it was the 6th position, Dylan Poteet. He has probably been the one driver who has started the season out great and just flatlined during the second half of the regular season. Poteet, pretty much during the first half of the season, he had 2 wins. He was up there battling for the points lead, really was inside the top 5 for a majority of that first half. Then after the All-Star race, the wheels have just come off. He's dropped 10 spots last week alone in the point stands with a dead last finish at Madrid. He's now 21st in points. And one thing that I've mentioned here this season is with the new format, if you get a win, that gives you a potentiality at getting into the chase, but you must be inside the top 30 in points. And so Dylan Pote, he's got 2 victories, but they're going to mean absolutely diddly squat if he does not finish inside the top 30 in points by the time this regular season is over. Those 2 wins will have been for naught. As his teammate Trent Dunham now moves to the inside. Trent Dunham trying to look for his 3rd win of the season. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Not 3rd win, I'm sorry. I meant to say 2nd win of the season. Wait, is he 2nd win of the season? I'm getting myself confused now. Can't want to do that. Well, he's a former winner this season nonetheless, and he'd love to be able to pick up another win. Let's just leave it at that. I'm trying to remember if he was a 2-time winner this season so far. Seems like he was. I'm having a bit of a brain lag right now, guys. I'm sorry. Battle's on for the lead right now between 2 drivers trying to find victory lane for the first time this season. Benjamin Miles in the 84, Charles Jackson in the 54. Charles Jackson has not been to victory lane in the Snickers Cup Series event, points event, since season 7. And we know the same was said for Cody Lamas before Kentucky. James Qualls now goes to the top position. Now James Qualls, former winner this season, ended up winning at Sonoma. And like I've said, for a majority of these races, when we see Qualls up here battling for top position, James Qualls last season, if we had had no chase whatsoever, if we just let it go by ordinary points, James Qualls would have been the Snickers Cup Series champion. But because he didn't have a victory, he was not in the chase and was not able to battle for that championship. The year before that, he was a rookie and had 2 victories that season, and actually was in the chase for the championship in his rookie season. So James Qualls, tell you what, once the chase begins this season, if he's locked into it, watch out for that 70 car. He could be a factor into who may end up winning the championship here in the final season of Snickers Cup. Just ahead of him, William Duncan. Now, Duncan was a 2-time winner last season, and he ended up making the chase for the championship. Came back with the same team, same car and everything, just a different look, and it's not been the same for him in season 10. He currently finds himself 24th in points and still winless this season. The only Dodge in the field here for the final season of Snickers Cup is just up in 2nd place now, making an appearance. That's Ryan Acosta in the 16. He DNF'd last week at Madrid. That ended up dropping Acosta all the way down to 29th in points. So he's right there on the borderline of that top 30. Still looking for his first win in a long time. I'm trying to remember the last time Ryan Acosta went to victory lane. It seems to me that it was back, I want to say, in season 5. Actually, no, I don't think it was in season 5, because I think the win that ended up going to an Acosta that season was actually his brother, John Acosta. I don't think Ryan Acosta has been to victory lane since season 5 either. I'm not sure when the last time was. Oh, trouble! Trouble back there! That was Zach Buchanan, Kyle Matthews, and we got our first yellow of the day with drivers coming to pit road. And Ryan Acosta crossed the line, I believe, as the leader. He did here under our first yellow with just about 8 laps remaining. That was Kyle Matthews, Zach Buchanan, the 3rd straight week that driver's hit trouble, and I couldn't tell there was another driver that was collected as well. And I can only assume that drivers were trying to pick their lanes to be able to get to pit road, as we saw a number of the leaders dive for the pit lane there that lap. And it looks like pits are going to be open this time. And here comes Ryan Acosta down with Joshua Collard. Oh, James Silverfox must have been the other one caught up in that. There is Zach Buchanan on pit road. I think we'll see in just mere moments the Pepsi Next Chevrolet of Kyle Matthews as well that was collected in it. And it looks like John Cittadino decided to stay out. Now that is something I don't understand. Well, I guess Cittadino's got to be unconventional, because he's tried being conventional the last couple of weeks and he's run up front, but he hasn't been able to close the deal. Maybe he's going to try and clutch and save himself about 7 laps of fuel. I don't know if he can do that, though. Comes in 4th in points, so he's situated well in points. He just needs that victory to be able to make the chase. Anyway, Cittadino trying to roll the dice here at Manassas. Everybody else came to pit road, and We'll see where this situates everybody after this. Our first caution happening with just under 10 laps to go here at Manassas Speedway. Let's take a look at a replay of it. And this was pretty close up to the front too, actually. This was, I think, just outside the top 10. Zach Buchanan had crossed the line in 12th the last time around. Just looks like James Silverfox doesn't give Buchanan any room. Boy. Now, I'm certain that a number of drivers had been signaling they were coming to pit road, and that's probably why Silverfox was up a bit higher than probably normally would have been going into that corner. And unfortunately, they were 3 wide above him with Buchanan and Kyle Matthews. So there really wasn't anywhere that Silverfox could go. But unfortunately, Buchanan was already there as well, and hard impact into the wall for all 3 of those drivers. Buchanan, it's just been absolute horrible luck for him. Kyle Matthews has not had as much luck either in the last couple of weeks. He was up inside the top 10 in points for most of the season. He now dropped to 13th, and he'll drop even lower here today. And James Silverfox, we just mentioned, he's been making quite a comeback, and that comeback has come to a screeching halt here today. So I think that was basically due to the fact that drivers were indicating they were going to come to pit road. Silverfox moved up so that way they'd have the lower groove and he wouldn't run over him. But unfortunately, Zach Buchanan and Kyle Matthews were battling 3 wide just above him as well. And that's how the contact was made. And there you see the smart move by Tim Walsh, Lyndon Wright, Cole Daly and company to dive onto pit road there just before they closed pit lane to these drivers with that caution coming out. Well, it turns out that John Cittadino was not going for the victory. He was actually going to stay out for an extra lap to lead a lap and get the bonus points. So he has now hit pit road. He is now on the tail end of the lead lap. Tail end of this longest line. So that was the strategy of Cittadino. I was thinking he probably wasn't going to be able to make it the whole way on the 1 tank of fuel if everybody else came to pit road, and that was apparently the case. But he wanted to get the bonus point for at least leading the lap today. So, the leader will be Ryan Acosta in the 16. James Qualls lines up second. Dougie Shears third. Fourth place, William Duncan. Fifth is Joshua Collard. Sixth will be Stephen Pollard the third. Trent Dunham is now seventh. Benjamin Miles eighth. Joshua Michaels up there in ninth. And in 10th will be Jessica Shelton. You see Chris Washer just ahead of Ryan Acosta. He's 37th on the tail end of the lead lap. And one person this caution did not help was Jacob Lawler. You see him 3 cars behind Ryan Acosta, the leader. He is still a lap down in 38th place. Also a lap down is Seth Cole in 39th. And then we got 3 drivers out of the race from that incident. Kyle Matthews, James Silverfox, and Zach Buchanan. John Cittadino, who stayed out, led a lap and pitted. He'll restart 36th. Jacob Lawler, what he needed was these drivers to all pit under green. The fact that the caution came out basically messed up him. And from what we understand, he had to come to pit road due to a loose wheel. We also understand Seth Cole had to pit early due to a right front going down. Green flag back out. 4 laps to go here at Manassas. It's going to be another dismal finish for Chris Washer, who dropped 10 spots in points to 26th last week. Right now, Ryan Acosta trying to use him as a drafting partner, keep ahead of second place on back, which is quite a battle right now. Dougie Shears now taking that spot. And Jacob Lawler, who is a lap down. I think Lawler could actually battle Chris Washer for position. So that might be what he's aiming for. If he can catch Chris Washer, he'd finish 37th. Right now, though, it is Ryan Acosta leading this race. Ryan Acosta trying to go to victory lane for the first time since I don't know when. And Ryan comes into this race 29th in points, too. So a victory would not only help him as far as trying to make the chase, but it would move him away from that 30th spot in points, too. Look who's coming up the inside line there. Joshua Collard caught about 3 wide under Stephen Pollard the third and Dougie Shears. Remember, we mentioned he's remained stagnant in the 6th position in points for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He wants to move up in the points now. 2 to go here at Manassas. Ryan Acosta leading. He's got a lap machine behind him. He's got a driver just in the tail of the lead lap in front of him. And then it's a ways back before you get to that second place car of Dougie Shears. Shears has got a lot of work to do here. Now, if Jacob Lawler races up with Ryan Acosta, though, that could bring Dougie Shears right back to the back door of the National Guard Ford. It looks like Jacob Lawler is looking, and he will get to the inside. White flag, 1 more lap to go. Is this going to be enough for Dougie Shears to run down Ryan Acosta? A little bit of dust there on the front straightaway. Not sure what that's all about, but I don't see any yellow flags waving or any yellow lights on. Looks like Stephen Pollard, third actually, was on pit road. Either that or he got turned, something or other. Lawler gets around. He's back in the tail end of the lead lap, but we're now watching Joshua Collard trying to run down Ryan Acosta as he moves to second. Trent Dunham looking for third. Sean Galligan, where'd he come from? He's up to fourth. That's out of turn four for the final time. Ryan Acosta goes to the inside of Lawler. He'll block the inside advantage. Ryan Acosta picks up his first win of the season here in Season 10, winning at Manassas Speedway. And Ford goes back-to-back. The Ford of Dylan Young won last week at Madrid. The Ford of Ryan Acosta wins this week at Manassas. And it's a Ford 1-2 with Joshua Collard finishing in second. So Ryan Acosta, I think we can safely say that caution flag was really a big break for him, because he was the one who led the leaders down pit road the lap after that caution flag came out. And that's what pretty much cycled him around to the top position, and then he was battling with the lap machines that opened up a little bit of a gap and put a little bit of a barrier between himself and second place. But then when Lawler started racing him, that's when it got interesting. Joshua Collard and Trent Dunham, Dougie Shears all tried to benefit from that by running him down, just could not do it. Nice strategic move of dropping down low out of 4. Even though he didn't get Lawler at the line, Lawler still will finish on the tail end of the lead lap, but still blocked any advantage of someone trying to go to the inside of him off of turn number 4. So Ryan Acosta comes away with the victory. Could this be a driver that we'll see potentially in the battle for the chase for the championship? I don't know. We'll find all that out in the next 6 races. How about Joshua Collard? Great run for him. We've really not talked much about him at all, and yet he's remained a constant in the top 10 in points for the last few weeks. He'll be moving up through the standings for sure today with a solid second place run. Trent Dunham in third place. It's the best run we've seen out of him in maybe the last 5 or 6 weeks. Still get third. Fourth place for Dougie Shears. And how about Sean Galligan coming from out of nowhere? Never really talked about the Hartley-Pool Chevrolet today. He's going to come away with a solid run of 5th place as he's trying to battle his way back up into the top 35 in points. This has been a great run for William Duncan, too. We haven't really talked much about the 83. Nice to see him get a solid run of 6th place. 7th place for Joshua Michaels. We talked about how he's been dropping through the points. Maybe this is a comeback for him. He gets the 7th position. Jessica Shelton, another driver we never talked much about. She's going to get 8th. Her teammate Charles Sanford there in 10th. So Retro Racing Enterprises get a top 10 for both of their entries here today. And Brandon Gonzalez, the meat and sandwich there, as he's going to finish in 9th place in the Mitsubishi Lancer. The defending champion trying to get back into the hunt for yet another championship here in the final season. But without further ado, folks, we thank you so much for watching. It's going to be interesting to see what the points are going to look like after this, because Jacob Lawler, we know, finished on the tail end of the lead lap. He officially finished this race in the 35th position. Austin Mongold finished in 31st place. So if I'm not mistaken, based on what I'm seeing, I think Trent Dunham, after losing the points lead a couple weeks ago, I think he's now jumped back up to the top of the points standings. So great run there by Trent Dunham. That will get him, I'm pretty certain, the points lead back heading into next week. I believe next week, I may be wrong, but I think next week we're going back to Daytona. We're getting ready for night racing at Daytona. I may be wrong, though, but like I said, we're going back to tracks that these drivers are familiar with now as we finally end off our back-to-back-to-back weekends of debut tracks. So, in all honesty, if you look at it, I think that Louisiana was a bit of a bore fest. Madrid was a pretty awesome restricted plate race, and I think that our rubber match race here was really good here today at Manassas. Hope you guys thought so too. If you enjoyed today's race, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to be part of the crew today. We'll now show you your full finish results from today's race at Manassas. We'll also show you your rookie points, as I believe DJ Curtis is rookie of the race in this one. Let's see. Yes, indeed. DJ Curtis finishing in 27th position here today gets rookie of the race. We'll also show you your overall points heading into next week, as Ryan Acosta is your winner here today at Manassas Speedway. You've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, offline racing at its best. We'll see you guys next time. for watching another video here on the NNSCRA Sports and Gaming channel. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, be sure to give this video a like. If you want to join the crew today, be sure to hit up that subscribe button. And if you want to know what's going on in the world of NNSCRA for news and updates, check out the Facebook and Twitter links down below me. Once again, thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you guys next time. I'm out.